Guys, have you ever looked at your paycheck and genuinely wondered where all the money went? Like you worked the whole month, you got paid, and somehow it still feels like there's nothing left over and you're no closer to getting ahead than you were maybe 6 months ago. If that sounds familiar, guys, you are not alone. And I want to show you today why that's happening because it's not just inflation. It is multiple massive financial pressures all hitting at the exact same time. And when you stack them on top of each other, the combined effect is exponentially worse than any single one of them would be by itself. So, as I dive into this video, I ask that you stay with me all the way to the end of it because I'm going to break down every single one of these pressures with real numbers explaining exactly why your paycheck isn't going as far as it used to, and I'm going to provide you a real honest answer on whether there's any reason to be optimistic about any of this. So, let's start with the one that everyone talks about. Inflation, because most people actually misunderstand how it works, and that misunderstanding makes the whole situation feel more confusing than it needs to be. Here's the most important thing to know. When you hear that inflation has come down from its peak, that does not mean prices went back down. It means that prices are still going up. But it's just not as fast as they were back in 2022 when inflation hit 9.1%. For prices to actually come down, you would need something called deflation, which is when inflation goes negative. Guys, since the pandemic, that has actually never happened. Prices have gone up every single year without exception. But here's where it gets really personal. Since 2021, wages across the country have grown by a cumulative 23%. Now, that sounds pretty good until you compare it to prices which have inflated by 28% over the same period. So, to tie it together, wages went up 23%, but prices went up 28%. And that is a 5% gap that represents real purchasing power that workers lost and unfortunately never got back. And honestly, that gap is probably even wider than that because the government's own inflation measurement is widely believed to understate what people are actually experiencing at the stores. And here's a detail that almost nobody talks about. Even if your wages grew by exactly 28% to match inflation, you'd still be worse off than before. Because making more money pushes you into a higher tax bracket, it reduces certain deductions you used to qualify for, and it eliminates certain tax credits. So the raise that you got to keep up with inflation actually costs you more in taxes, meaning your take-home purchasing power actually still fell behind. Alright, now let's talk about one of the most overlooked budget destroyers in America right now, and that is insurance. And you might be wondering what kind of insurance? Guys, every kind of insurance. Homeowners insurance, auto insurance, health insurance, all of them have been going up at rates that make normal inflation look mild by comparison. If you own a home, your homeowner's insurance premium has almost certainly jumped significantly in the last few years. The reason is pretty straightforward. Insurance companies have been paying out more claims because of natural disasters, and the cost of rebuilding has gone up dramatically because labor and construction materials both got more expensive. Just between 2019 and 2024, property insurance costs in America rose by 75%. And that's not me exaggerating the numbers here. 75% in 5 years. And here's the thing, this doesn't just affect homeowners. If you rent an apartment, your landlord's insurance went up the same amount. And of course, they passed that cost down straight to you in the form of higher rent. Then, of course, you have auto insurance. Just this year in 2026, the average cost of car insurance is up 18% from just 1 year ago. Why? Because today's cars are packed with technology. Even a minor fender bender requires expensive sensors, cameras, and computer systems to be replaced and calibrated. The parts are more expensive and the repairs take even longer. And then the last insurance that I mentioned, which was health insurance, whether you get it through your employer or if you're buying it yourself, premiums, deductibles, and out-of-pocket costs are all climbing. Marketplace health insurance premiums are expected to increase by at least 10% next year. So, when you add up homeowners or renters insurance, car insurance, and health insurance, you are looking at a category of your budget that has gone up dramatically over the past 5 years and shows absolutely no sign of slowing down. Now guys, before I dive into more details of this video, if this video is giving you any value so far, please show some love by smashing that like button, leaving a comment down below, and subscribing. Guys, your support genuinely helps this channel grow, so please show some love by smashing that like button, commenting down below, and subscribing. Alright, now let's move on to the next segment. So let's layer in the other pressures that are hitting on top of the insurance situation, because this is where the pile really starts to feel suffocating. On housing, there's a general rule in personal finance that you shouldn't be spending more than 30% of your gross income on housing costs. Anything above that, and the housing is considered unaffordable. The last time housing was actually at or below that 30% threshold in America was March of 2021. And right now, the average American household is spending over 40% of gross income just on housing, and in expensive cities, it's significantly higher than that. That gap between the 30 and 40% represents thousands of dollars a year that used to go towards savings, investing, or discretionary spending, and now goes entirely towards keeping a roof over your head. And unfortunately, food prices tell the same story. Grocery costs have been rising steadily since 2016. But what's alarming is that after the massive run-up in food prices that happened just after the pandemic, the prices never came back down. They stayed elevated and are now accelerating again, driven in part by the energy price increases from the conflict in the Middle East too. And then of course there's debt. Credit card debt in the United States just hit $1.25 trillion, which is another record, and delinquencies, meaning people who can't make their minimum payments, are at their highest level since 2008, just the year after the financial crisis. The average interest rate on a credit card debt right now is 21%, a record 23% of new car purchases are being financed for 7 years or longer just to make the monthly payment fit. And guys, people are not making these choices because they are irresponsible. They're making them because every other option has gotten more expensive faster than their income could even keep up. Now, I do want to address something that I think deserves to be said plainly, because I think most financial content dances around this idea. The government and the Federal Reserve are a significant part of why all of these pressures exist at once. When the government spends dramatically more than it collects in taxes, which it has been doing over the last 2 decades, it has to borrow the difference. To borrow that much money, it has to offer investors higher interest rates to attract buyers for its debt. When interest rates on government debt go up, interest rates on mortgages follow. Car loan rates follow, credit card rates follow. Pretty much everything that involves borrowing money gets more expensive. And the money printing that happened during and after the pandemic, which was real and significant, pushed so many new dollars into the economy that each existing dollar became worth a little less. That's inflation at its core. So the combination of government overspending, money printing, and the interest rate environment that results from all of this is not some mysterious market force that nobody can explain. It's a direct and predictable consequence of policy decisions that were made over many years. That's not a political statement, guys. It's just how monetary systems work. The people who pay the price for those decisions most directly are working families whose wages can't keep up with the cumulative effect of all of this. Okay, so as I wrap up this video, here's the question I know you're sitting with after everything I just laid out. Are we basically doomed? Well, my honest answer is I don't think so. But I also don't want to blow sunshine with some generic motivational wrap-up, because the data that we went through today is real and it deserves a real answer. So here's how I'm thinking about it. Just a decade ago, building financial stability was hard but manageable for most people who were disciplined and intentional. Today, it is significantly harder, more expensive, more stressful, and less forgiving of mistakes. It's like if you were playing a video game on level 4 before you've now spawned into level 7. The game didn't end, but the difficulty just skyrocketed. And the old strategies that used to work don't work quite as well anymore. That means that you have to upgrade, guys. You have to be more intentional about your budget than you used to be. You have to build income skills that actually keep pace with a more expensive world. You have to protect your emergency fund more aggressively. You have to invest consistently even when it's uncomfortable, because sitting in cash while inflation runs at 4% is a guaranteed way to fall further behind. And if you have to be honest with yourself about where your money is actually going, because in this environment, vague awareness of your finances is not enough anymore. The people who are going to come out of this decade in a genuinely stronger financial position are not the ones who made the most money. They are the ones who managed what they had with the most discipline and intention. That's the whole game right now. Guys, I want to thank you for watching this video all the way through. Please subscribe so you don't miss the next video that I put out, and I typically put it out every other day. And please comment down below and tell me which of these pressures is hitting your budget the hardest right now. I genuinely read every single comment that comes by, and I tend to comment on them as well. So guys, thank you again for watching this video all the way through. I'll see you guys in the next video.